who won IPL last year? CSK. So let's start with them. Chennai Super Kings. Oh, well, they've never lost 3 games in a trot, and now they've lost 3 games. So, yeah, guys.
Yeah, I mean, a disappointing start to say the least. As you see, I've already started transitioning out of my CSK support. No, I'm kidding. I just didn't have a jersey. I mean, it's been a very disappointing start. You know, initially, I mean, the second match was probably the most disappointing. The first match, we didn't even think we had a chance after the first innings. In the second match, we had like a decent total to defend, so it felt even worse when um, Jaddu's captaincy left. Dubey and somebody who's never played an IPL game ever before to bowl the final 2 overs. So yeah, that was a little bit of a sting. And then of course yesterday in the Punjab match we also got fairly comprehensively beaten. I have no clue. I feel like Dhoni has like different modes, and he's not able to sort of. The modes aren't really based on the situation in the game, but they're based on the overs. Like we had an incredible asking rate for CSK chasing yesterday, but Dhoni was like 10 of 18, which provides no support. It makes the batsmen on the other end feel like they have to go hard, much harder, because they obviously do. So even though it was a bit earlier than Dhoni generally hits, the situation obviously called for it. And then he tries to hit when there are like 4 overs left and 70 runs required, which is just insane. The idea that I don't know if he thought we could win from there, but he definitely wasn't doing CSK any
And
favors with that.
CSK have won like that before, and Dhoni has done it before, but I don't think he just got it in him now. We saw a couple of good innings in the first 2 games. The first game against the Knight Riders, of course, we got a quick 50 by Dhoni, I think, yeah. And then we got a
I think
quick
it was a
fire.
50 and a 16. No?
Oh, no,
Okay,
no,
whatever. We played well in both games.
yeah, but in the second game, I think it was the first game where he hit a six in the first ball of his innings. So in the second game, he scored 16 of 6, and the first game he had 50, and obviously against the Punjab Kings, well, arguably one of the worst bowling lineups than the other 2 teams they faced. So yeah, he took on a lineup which had well, Chakravarti, Narayan, Mavi, all that, but then failed against, well, let's see, Rahul Chahar. Well, yeah, Rahul Chahar bowled really well last game, right? Yeah.
Rahul Chahar did well.
Also, Dhoni's captaincy, that's an interesting point you brought on, because Jadeja's clearly not been doing a good enough job.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been questioning if Jadeja is really the captain because he's busy in deep point. He can't really have any direct. A lot of the times he's in deep point. He's obviously somewhere in the outfield because he's probably CSK's only good fielder. I mean, you have Bravo, etc. But he's CSK's main fielder. We need him in the outfield, and because of that, it makes it difficult to sort of command the team, rally the team. Like a wicketkeeper is very easily able to do so. I mean, it could possibly be Dhoni, but I don't think so. I think he's trying to leave as much of it to Jaddu as possible, but it hasn't been going great so far. And I mean, I obviously mentioned the example of the bowling in the second match. There's not too much he could have done differently in the sense that the bowling options were not great for CSK, but he could have definitely brought in. He had 2 overs with Bravo and he bowled him in the 15th, one of them, which is insane. He shouldn't have done that. He should have obviously brought in Bravo as late as possible so he didn't have to resort to Dubey and Chaudhary when they started actually hitting and getting the runs. So yeah, Evan Lewis took it to us and it was our fault. It was pretty bad captaincy.
Yeah, getting back to Dhoni's batting, actually, if you see post 2019 or so, he's probably one of the worst players of spin in the IPL, which is surprising. But if you look at the stats, he's striking at around 90, and the only 2 players that are worse than him are Krunal Pandya and, surprisingly, Jadeja. So Dhoni's not been doing too well against spin. Even if you see the Knight Riders game, he completely played out Narayan and Chakravarti. He took no risks and he got his runs versus the Pacers. And of course, in the second match against LSG, he came in at the end, faced 6 balls, all against pace. This time, again, he was struggling against spin a lot, and especially against Rahul Chahar. So that is a worry for CSK. He's got his hitting skills against pace back, as we saw, but he really needs to step up his game against spin.
Well, adding on to the list of worries for CSK has obviously been a certain man named Deepak Chahar, who's got himself injured in the India series, the series that they played before, and now CSK are badly missing him because they resort to the likes of Mukesh Chaudhary and whatnot. Actually, Dwayne Pretorius was a blessing in disguise, but if they didn't have Pretorius, the Lucknow game and the Punjab Kings game would have been over a lot before than when it got over. And Bravo, obviously the leading wicket taker, he's also been crucial for them. And now we saw Chris Jordan nailing the Yorkers against the Punjab Kings. That was also important. So the three overseas pacers are doing well, but then the Indian contingent, um, you win IPLs on your Indian contingent, right? We've seen that with Mumbai Indians. We've seen that the same thing in the past with Chennai Super Kings, but this time the Indian contingent is seeming weak. And at the top of that hill is missing Deepak Chahar, getting wickets up top, and obviously not having adequate replacements for the players that they lost from last year.
Yeah, like you said, Pretorius is a blessing in disguise. And initially I didn't like with regards to the foreigners. I didn't want Conway or Milner to leave. But obviously, so far Pretorius on the pace front is doing a better job than Milner. And even Jordan, who came in, he's a more direct replacement for Milner, obviously, and he did a better job. I didn't really expect him to bowl that well. I think I've said in previous episodes that I didn't want Jordan to play because I thought he'd get taken to the cleaners. But to be fair, he executed pretty well. And CSK, to give them credit, their bowling at the later end of the Punjab innings was quite good. Punjab, I think, was 120 for 2 in 12 overs, and they were consistently going at the 10 runs and over up to, I think, 15 overs. They were like 115 overs, and then a few quick wickets, and they were somewhat able to.
Let me start with that. It's not the greatest thing to take out the Punjab lower order, right?
That is true. That is true.
Because Livingston has had one good match, 16 balls, and then gone. And then Dhawan has gotten starts, but not too good. We'll talk about that later, of course. But it isn't the greatest thing to take out the Punjab middle order, especially.
Yeah,
I'm wearing an RCB jersey, and that's very hypocritical. But it isn't the greatest thing, just generally speaking from a non-biased perspective.
That is fair, but if you look at what the bowlers were able to do, Pretorius bowled quite good last overs. So did Chris Jordan. So yeah, I mean, they weren't a fantastic bowler, but they did fairly decent. And looking at where Punjab was, I think a 200-210 score was sort of expected, even though the middle order isn't very strong. So on that front, they did well. And even Chris Jordan, in the interview, he said they did a good job restricting them towards the end. But I mean, in the post first innings interview, but CSK would have to work hard and do well on the batting front to get the target, which they obviously didn't. And it wasn't like a particularly difficult pitch. CSK just they weren't able to execute on the batting front.
Yeah, if you look at it, CSK's batting unit is probably their stronger unit, and I mean even that didn't fire last game. But their bowling is definitely lacking Deepak Chahar. He was a beast in the power play, and if you look at the stats, I think only after MS CSK were the best power play bowling unit, and that was 90% because of Deepak Chahar. Missing him is a big worry. There are reports coming that he'll be fit by the end of April or start of May, but that might be too late. No one knows. Right now, Bravo is basically carrying their bowling unit. He's bowling really well. Pretorius bowled well, and last game Jordan came in, but you can never be too sure with Jordan. He'll have a good day. He'll have bad days.
And Jordan, the death overs, he was bowling to the tail enders, so that's not really a complete sample size as a fit of his skills.
That is true, but he was executing the Yorkers. He was able to
Yorkers, yes.
Consistent. I think in his second to last over, the one ball he didn't bowl a Yorker was like a low full toss, and he got a wicket on that. So that was a pretty solid bowling on that end. And I mean a little off topic, but I feel like Uttapa's score was sort of Yeah, I know we say blessing in disguise, but I think it's the opposite. It was like a devil in sheep's clothing. Is that the phrase? I don't know. Either way, because I feel like now CSK will be quite fixed on Uthappa opening, which is okay, but then they won't really try to make space for Conway. Even if they try to remove Jordan later on, go with Jordan, Pretorius, Bravo, they won't bring in Conway. And I feel like Conway opening would be very destructive if he gets in and he's able to sort of play, like understand the pitch and play well. So Uthappa, I mean, for that innings it was good, but if Uthappa doesn't deliver, it'd be interesting to see how in the future it would be interesting to see how CSK tries to deal with that if they try to bring back Conway and cut back on like maybe.
You know, if we try to dissect CSK's team a little bit, you have their 11, and their entire 11 is similar to last year's 11, where they won the title, except every player is worse. I've said this 10 times, but I'm going to say it again, right? Robin Uthappa is a downgrade of Suresh Raina, just generally. Or, okay, even if you consider them the equal level, whatever it is, just on
I
the
mean,
based
to
on,
be fair, Uthappa was better than Raina last year when they
yeah,
won.
last
Raina
year
did
he
have a
was,
good season.
but just generally on an overall IPL perspective, Uthappa's worse than Raina. Devon Conway, even though he's not playing, he's still the downgraded version of a Faf du Plessis. Ambati Raju is still there, but he's 1 year older and 1 year worse. And considering how not good he is, it's just the same thing. He did win them a couple of games, but you know, Mohan
And
Ali
speaking
is
of Ambati, right, that catch was like an atrocity. I mean, I get he was spinning, but that was insane. That was like the most basic catch. I mean, he did make up for it soon, but yeah.
even Gaikwad dropped a dolly, didn't he? I think he did. The previous games, yeah. Other than that, Dhoni, Jadeja, all that's the same. Then you have Chris Jordan, who is a complete downgrade of Josh Hazelwood. Um, Pretorius is your version of 2020 Sam Curran. He's playing. All good. Pretorius has not done badly. And then you have who do you have? Mukesh Chaudhary, he's a different level downgrade of Deepak Chahar. So is Tushar Deshpande. And yeah, their entire core structure has been taken, downgraded, and they made a new team. And they've expected this team, who are all also, by the way, 1 year older, to win the IPL in 2022. And now they've lost 3 on the trot. And the only thing good for them is that their next game is against SRH, who is one team that looks worse than them. So
yeah,
that's the best thing for them. Yeah. Speaking about CSK's bowling unit, I mean, Dwayne Bravo, I mean, it's getting overshadowed because CSK are playing really bad, but he just became the leading wicket taker in IPL. He overtook Lasith Malinga, and that's a pretty big feat. And he's been the one bowler who's looked solid in all 3 games for them. So big ups to him.
Yes.
We didn't have a mediocre last game, but yeah, he looks really good.